Anthony, I'm sure that you have tons of miracle stories because people walk in through your door aching and having tons of pain, and in a relatively short period of time, they leave happy and healed and cured from pain for the most part. So please share some miracle stories with us.
Miracle stories. Well, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been fortunate enough to impact quite a few lives, and just like anybody else, I don't bat 1,000 using the baseball analogy, meaning that everybody doesn't get well, and there's a lot of reasons for that as well. Just this past week, I actually had a client in from Australia who was in to see me, who's had chronic back pain for 10 years, has had 2 disectomies over the last 5 years, still has a lot of pain, has seen multiple practitioners. And when I finished with her, through the entire process that I just described over those 2 hours, she had no pain at that time, and her comments were that I feel like I'm a completely new person. And my understanding of what she was saying was not just physically because she had hope now. She had a new perspective on how she's going to continue her well-being, and she also has excitement about what's possible around her lifestyle. She's a fitness professional, believe it or not, so her life is dependent upon her ability to use her body. And I think what I've been excited about when folks come to see us is that we very often are immediately able to impact the way somebody feels. So somebody could come in with the pain. They could have pain for the last 10 years of anywhere from a 5 to an 8 or more on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst. And we might be able to take them down to a 0 in a session. And that's without ever laying a hand on them. And and again, it's a very complex sequence of events why all this falls into place that way. But the important thing for the client to know as well is, and I tell them this, is the good news is you feel no pain right now. The bad news is there's a possibility it's going to come back, and more than likely it is going to come back. But they now have these tools in their toolbox and an understanding that allows them to continually reinforce the message to their nervous system, to their musculoskeletal system, and to their brain. It's an unbelievable advantage to the individual to be able to get themselves out of pain even for short periods of time, because of what that does to all their physiology, to what it does to their psychology, what it does to their outlook and their attitude on what's possible. So we start when we're able to do that with somebody, they start to stack the good days, and then there creates a momentum. The same way somebody generally describes a downward spiral. Well, it works in both ways. If you can start to stack a lot of good things. So this woman that was just in from Australia, that was one case. I've had people that have come in that have basically been told you need to have surgery on your back. You have spinal stenosis. This gentleman who is a medical doctor from the East Coast who comes to see me a couple times a year was told that he was going to have a spinal fusion. That was probably 6 years ago. He's never had to get the spinal fusion, and that's because they see these things from a biomechanical standpoint on their imaging studies. There's MRI, their X-ray says, "Oh, look at this narrowing. You need to have this." And the reality of it, there's not a one-to-one correlation with what shows up in their imaging and what their experience is. And so we were able to get him back to playing golf. Never had to go under the knife, and he lives a life. He can put on his heavy X-ray lead apron when he goes in to take X-rays of his own patients, and it doesn't hurt his back. And there's a lot of phenomenal things that he experiences that way. And again, I've been doing this for a long time. So if you want a specific case type of, if you want somebody with fibromyalgia, I could tell you about that. If you want somebody that's had migraines for 9 years, I could tell you about that. There's a lot of different ways that people get to this next level. And it's not an overnight, as you know, it's not an overnight event. But once you provide people with the understanding, and a different understanding. So again, changing their paradigm of what's going on with their body and their pain, and them not feeling like they're broken and they're going to be broken, and there's only so much better that they can get because they're broken, is a horrible burden for them to have to carry. And if we can shed that burden from them along, and then provide them with this proper exercise approach, and they make these other changes within their health and their lifestyle, they're on their way to success.